My guests today are David Pullan and SarahJane McKechnie. David and SarahJane are actors, co-founders, writers, and coaches. They first met in a play rehearsal room and fell in love acting on stage together. They've been in films with Shirley MacLaine. They've performed to Henry Kissinger and his Secret Service entourage. They've created storytelling shows where they've cooked chicken for the audience. And now, through their company, the Story Spotters, which they co-founded, they apply the science, art, and craft of story to the communications challenges that their clients face in a wide variety of industries. In addition to acting and working together, David and SarahJane write books together. Their two books, The DNA of Engagement and the newly released The Art of the Unignorable Email, show you how you can save your great ideas from the threat of extinction by giving them the strength to survive and thrive in an increasingly noisy and busy world. David and SarahJane, welcome to Speech Bubbles.
Charlotte, thank you so much. What a joy. Yeah, no. I'd like to meet you.
It's lovely to have you with us. And I'd love to know more about that, about saving great ideas from the threat of extinction. And let's start with you, SarahJane. Why is it important for your clients to learn to tell stories that survive the noise?
Well, I think there are so many great ideas out there, and they can actually die underneath a lot of information and posturing in a way. And because of the fact that we live through story, I mean, that our lives are a story, we make sense of our lives through story, through that medium, that to actually be able to put it into context and tell a story and make it live and make it visual for people is so much better, because it, apart from anything else, it fires up all the senses in the audience. And so people are more likely to live it rather than just a kind of an intellectual, no matter how well scripted, but a really intellectual dive into something where people are going, What was that? What was that bit? So that we need that. We need that to see the pictures, basically. And
I think what I'm hearing is that stories fire up the neurons.
They do.
Whereas intellectually crafted diatribes are quite boring. And David, I've heard you say that stories are our oldest technology. Could you expand on that?
Well, I don't think anyone was using PowerPoint around the fire to catch bison, Charlotte. So, I mean, I think, it was all. One of our favorite quotes about story in the business context really is it's facts in context told with feeling. And so this is a lot of the work that both of us are doing at the moment, is how do you take the facts? How do you take the data? All of those things that are incredibly important, but wrap them within a narrative and story context, which, as you say, is going to fire the neurons. Because I did a piece of work in India recently, and one of the bits of research I came up with is there are 374 billion pieces of digital communication sent and received every single day in the business.
Oh, that's horrific.
It's horrific, isn't it? I mean, and we're all guilty of sending them as much as anything. And so one of the biggest problems in business is not so much that people will disagree with you, is that people will ignore you because their brains are overwhelmed with information. So how can you provide the shortcut that is going to make people pay attention? And that old piece of technology where we actually go, oh, I get it. I see where we are with this. Literally see where it is. Yeah. That's where story comes into it.
Yeah.
I love that. And what it speaks to is, it was the technology that told us we belonged. Without a story, how did we know that we belonged to this group of people around the fire? Yeah. We didn't know unless the stories told us, well, that's my mother and that's my father, and this is how I'm connected to these people. Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. Yeah. SarahJane, what play were you rehearsing when you first met? And how do you go from acting together to getting married to running a business together?
Oh, no.
What was it that Hemingway said about being an alcoholic? It happened very slowly, then all at once.
Yes. The play was called Deadlock.
Oh my God.
Which we kind of nicknamed it Dead Lost, didn't we?
Lost,
really? Yeah. It was a very awkward play. Let's put it like that. And I think when we went into, certainly, I think probably that both of us had told our agents that we didn't want to go up for it. And then we both found ourselves in the rehearsal room on that first day.
Around the tea urn.
Yes, exactly. And we realised, I think, definitely that we were going to be able to kind of help each other get through the door.
Please be my friend.
It wasn't a good play, sadly. But
just look at us now.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have met, and then there wouldn't have been the DNA of engagement. Maybe, who knows? But it was. We did have a laugh. Didn't we?
Had a huge laugh, and actually, that's what's kept us together. I mean, through everything, yes. Is we still have a huge laugh despite everything. We sometimes people say, "How do you work and live together and be married together?" And we say we share a sense of humour and have very limited access to sharp objects.
That's true.
I love that, and I'm fascinated by filming with Shirley MacLaine. David, what was that like?
Oh no, that was SarahJane, Shirley MacLaine.
Yes,
that literally was my first job, and I was very interested in commedia dell'arte and mime. And I was, which a lot of the work I was doing was around that. And we just happened to be at Henley Festival doing our bit, this friend of mine and myself. And John Schlesinger saw us. And so I got a phone call from his office at my home to say, by the way, John Schlesinger would like to see you for a film. I thought somebody was joking. Literally, because I'd only just started acting, I really thought, and I said, I'm sorry, who is this? This is John Schlesinger. Okay, yes. And what he wanted to do was to take us to a film called Madame Suzatska, and we were filmed doing our act basically around the thing. And there is one horrible, well, not horrible, but there is one extraordinary bit in the film where all you see is a massive close-up on a big screen of my face, in white face. I really, really, really wasn't prepared for that when I saw it.
50 feet
but
tall.
That's it. I mean, the film is about something else, but we just hang around in the festival. So it was the most extraordinary thing because it was a wonderful, massive budget, and I spent about, I don't know, half an hour sitting on a wall with John Schlesinger having a chat during the filming. So it was fun.
Oh, how lovely. Yeah. Now, David, please pull the threads together for me. So I know you acted. I know at some point SarahJane taught. I know at some point SarahJane was a coach.
Yeah.
Give me the timeline of acting, teaching, coaching to the story spotters.
Well, when our son Charlie was born, I mean, SarahJane made the decision quite rightly that, I mean, acting is fantastic. It's a little bit like choosing to be a manic depressive, though, because when you're doing it, it's fantastic. But you spend a lot of time not doing it, which is emotionally tough, but it's also financially tough as well. And with a young baby, I mean, SarahJane made the decision that she wanted to do something that used her skills, but meant she didn't have to live away from home so much. I was very lucky because I had a period of work where I was pretty much solidly employed acting for 3 years, and SarahJane joined a company very much in the early days of when they were taking actors into industry, and it was called impact training. Really, it was how to do that, and she was incredibly successful at it, and our lives changed dramatically. I mean, we could actually go on holidays and things like that. I mean, that first trip to Venice. It was like, what? We can actually do this and stay in a hotel. But SarahJane was very, very skilled at it. I was still acting. I dipped my toes a bit in it. I'd created a course at a drama school called Your Voice is the Business, which was it was a transferable skills thing for business people, but I was still very much in the world of acting. Cut to SarahJane leaving that company, and being incredibly overworked. And one day, waking up in the morning, she had 2 massive projects, one in Switzerland and one in the city of London for a particular client. KPMG actually, and waking up and just saying, I can't get out of bed. And you'd been struck by ME.
Yeah, it was chronic fatigue.
Chronic fatigue syndrome, and literally could not get out of bed. And she had to phone the lead partner on one of these particular jobs. And I couldn't overhear the whole conversation, but it went something like, well, what are we going to do? I mean, do you know anyone who can take over from you? And she went, yes, I think I do. And that was me. And so within about 24 hours, I found myself on a flight to Zurich with KPMG, helping them to pitch for about 20 million francs worth of business to Swiss Re, ending up in a room with men in three-piece suits who might as well have been talking ancient Greek to me. And I ran into the loo at the first break and I said, SarahJane, I literally have no idea what these people are on about. And she said to me, do what you've always done. Get them to tell you the story about what it's going to look like on day one, working with them. What's it going to look and feel like for Swiss Re working with KPMG? And I went, oh, I could do that. And I went back into the room and I said, listen, let's talk about it. What's it going to look like? Where's it going to be? Who's going to be there? What's good? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, at the end of that session, they went, oh, this is interesting, isn't it? And that became the central hub of their pitch, off which all of the data, all of the facts, I don't think we even said data back in those days, but I mean, but all the facts hung off this central story, this organizational story, if you like, organizing idea. And I've basically been doing that ever since. I mean, SarahJane turned me into a story spotter.
I did. Yeah.
It makes so much sense, and I can see such a clear trajectory from acting, which is all about story, and it's all about presenting it in a way that it lands, going back to the neurons that we talked about at the beginning. Now you've worked together for a long time in a business that you've co-founded. Is there a part of the work that each of you prefers? How do you play to your strengths?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. I think there is.
I mean, I think I trained as a coach, so and I love that. I think it's sort of part of the nature of how I like to work with people, and so I think that that's I mean, I love doing everything really. I mean, it's just brilliant because you're solving puzzles in a way with a presentation or something, but the actual kind of getting people to understand how they need to be and why they need to be, and how they in particular, that particular individual wants to be and has it within them, I think is fascinating, and I love that. But it's all to do with how you come over and how you react to stuff, and it's all tied into the communication connection. Really, it's how you present, how you communicate, and I do love that.
Yeah, you're very good at it as well, about unpicking what's going on.
I can't help seeing it. I think that's
you do. It's like your crystal ball, isn't it? It's witchery going on.
I know.
Yeah. I'm a bit.
And
more
you, David?
No, I just like winning stuff.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
I'm really, really basic, Charlotte. I mean, for me, story is a means to an end, and so I mean, it starts really back with that pitch, which KPMG did win in this case, and I've sort of been doing that ever since. I mean, helping people with pitches. I'm currently working. Actually, a really interesting avenue has opened up in academia as well, about working with higher education in terms of how they approach a sector which is really stretched at the moment and really under huge competition. How they talk to prospective students to attract to win prospective students over. I'm working with a company in Jersey next week about their employee value proposition, which is all again about the stories that are going to attract people to the organization and attract the best talent. So I think I'm a little bit. I think I used. Not that SarahJane doesn't, but I'm much more driven by the strategic side of story and winning stuff.
I love that. Yeah. Now, you're a married couple, you're leading the business together. Is it hard to make decisions? Or is one of you like the business head and the other's the creative head? How does that happen?
I think it's like this, isn't it, really?
Actually, over time, that's a very good point. Over time, it really has, given that we've been doing this for a million
Yes.
years, and we've seen the
Yes.
global financial crisis and COVID, I mean,
Yeah.
we've both had to step up at different times
Yeah.
and step into gaps. So that, I mean, 2008, I had a really bad time of it. I mean, my poor brain didn't cope at all well with the fact that suddenly the tap was turned off, and SarahJane was amazing, and just again white witched up some work somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting
Yes.
though, those things. I mean, actually, it's a great question, Charlotte. I mean, I don't know what you think, Sarah, but I mean, those times, especially the financial crisis of 2008 and COVID, after the initial shock, they both forced us to rethink and recalibrate what it is we do and how we do it in different ways, and our rebrand from McKechnie Pullan Limited to the Story Spot has happened during COVID, but.
Yeah.
But your coaching really came alive during the GFC, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think as well the situation that I would point to was when I literally I had about a year out because I just burnt out, and it was before David really started doing any of this work.
Well, that's because that's when I did start.
Yeah,
when you burnt
it
out.
was exactly, and he had a kind of it was a baptism of fire, wasn't it? So it's
I wore a lot of brown trousers.
and he I remember getting phone calls. Right, I'm in the lavatory. They've said this.
That's it. Exactly. That's it.
What do I say?
Yeah. It was like, do you know that Cyrano de Bergerac where he's off stage telling?
Yes. Yeah.
It was Cyrano to my
It's
Christian.
very funny.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is there've been inflection points along the way.
Yes.
One of you takes the lead, one of you steps back. But what those inflection points have also done have re-infused your business with new creative urges that have taken you to where you are now, which is actually really rather wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think what we're really good at, and there's a lot that we're not really good at. I mean, you know, and it's. I mean, I don't think either of us would pretend it's not easy being married and running a business and living together. I mean, you do have to, you know, there's all sorts that goes along with that. But I think what we're both very good at, and maybe this is something from our acting days, we're very good at saying yes to stuff. I mean, I think a lot of people, there are wonderful opportunities that fly by them all the time, but they just don't see them. They don't put their hand out and catch them. And I think we've been good at catching opportunities and thinking, okay, let's see where this takes us.
Because you've always been independent, right? You've always been effectively freelancers.
Yeah.
Even when people asked you to not be, I mean, you knew that your value was in.
Yeah. No, I never wanted to join an organisation. Really, I always wanted to be freelance. I think that is the nature. It was interesting actually because when I first started work, I started work as a teacher, and of course that I loved it, but I needed to leave because of the fact that I didn't want to be. I remember I was in the English department, and the head of English decided at the end of the year that I would be in charge of the library next year, and I thought, do I want to be in charge of the library? And I obviously don't have any kind of say in this, and I thought that I don't think this is for me. Really, I love the kids, but I don't think I wasn't searching for the next scale up payment wise. Does that make sense? That wasn't my goal. It was
not interested in the career ladder.
No. So that I think from then on, I realised I always had to be freelance in doing something so that I could make my own decisions.
And how
actually,
good? Sorry.
No, you go ahead. No.
I was going to say, how good are you two at allowing yourselves to take breaks?
Increasingly worse, I would say.
I think that's true, actually.
These last couple of years, getting 2 books out, and I think that has there's always something preying on our time.
Well, you know what that's like, Charlotte. I mean, it's you become a bookseller after you become a book writer, and it's
yes,
you know, we're not as good, which is a shame because we travel really well together.
Yeah, we do.
We do good travel.
So I think that needs to come back back into play.
Yeah, we have this dream of starting a business called Toga Travel, which stands for Two Old Gits Abroad, which is because we love.
Do that.
I know it'd be fun because what we're really good at is going to places without too much of a plan, and then just think, okay, we'll get day one sorted, and then we'll start asking locals where should we go and where should we eat, and we've found some amazing places.
Yeah, we have.
Haven't we? It's really,
Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, I want to talk.
Side hustle.
Side hustle.
I want to talk about the writing now, because you do write books as a pair, and for that I give you very much respect. So my hubby is also a writer. He blogs. I read his PhD several times. We are often each other's first reader, but we could not write together. How do you manage it?
Shall we be honest?
I think so. Well, I think David usually gets, I mean, he won't let me anywhere near it initially. That's the thing. That's what happens.
The English teacher in SarahJane comes out and she says there should be a comma there.
Yeah.
And you should, no, this is, it actually is an interesting thing just in terms of the way that we work. And I think that generally in all of the things that we do, I'm much more sort of immediate. Like,
bish bash bosh.
I'm very bish bash bosh. I get out there and I do stuff and make stuff happen. SarahJane's much more reflective and thinks about stuff, and basically is great at shaping things. So I'll be the one that will come up with it, and I do get quite protective. SarahJane calls it controlling. I call it protective. But I'm a control enthusiast rather than a control freak, and I do want to get it to a state whereby I know it's not going to get totally McKechnie'd. I know a partial McKechnieing of my writing. And I think that we get to that stage, and then SarahJane says, well, I think it should be like this, and I scream and shout and sulk and then agree. And then realise she's right.
That's what happens.
That's life.
Really.
Look at the crossed arms. A lot of body language.
But if you've agreed that that's your creative process, and you now through 2 books recognize it, it's the process that a book has to go through anyway. So you have to write a dirty first draft that's imperfect, or what's sometimes known in the trade as the vomit draft, where you just pile it all on, and then afterwards the editing process is refinement, taking things away, moving things around. So you're 2 heads doing it, but you are actually matching to the creative process.
Yeah, and I mean, even
so I want to.
I mean that goes right to the very end of it as well. I mean, you know how many drafts it never stops, almost to the point whereby like the final minute when you have to submit that last draft, it's like, I think that should be, you know what it's like, and SarahJane's great at that.
Yeah, lovely. So I want to do a little shift now. You've spent decades working with leaders in business. Without giving away any secrets, and certainly, not pointing any fingers at any individuals, when, where, and how have you learned from your customers the most about leadership?
Oh, wow. Do you know the first thing that comes to mind for me? This is very us, isn't it? I'll come up with something to give you some thinking time.
No. I think I was going to
say Andrew Ratcliffe.
Yes,
Andrew Ratcliffe. There was a wonderful old partner. Old partner, you'd hate me if he sees this. A partner at PwC he's an old Cooper's partner who's now retired, but he was a PwC partner. He was one of those partners that he ran the Barclays audit, he ran the Shell audit, he ran GSK audit, all sorts of things. I mean, AstraZeneca. He was just a great lead audit partner, great at relationships. And he was one of those people. Is one of those people. I mean, he's now retired from PwC and is a very, very sought after non-exec. But he's one of those people you knew if you sent him an email, he would reply within 20 minutes. You just get a reply. He was there for you. I think what he was also great at, and this is something that I think was true of the best theatre directors that I worked with, is they were very good at having a vision of what they wanted things to look like, but they were willing to be, and he was willing to be surprised about how we got there. So the journey to his vision of his dream, if you like, in the DNA of engagement terminology. He was willing to be surprised on the journey to that dream, and sometimes the dream got better because of the journey that was taken collaboratively.
I think when you know these leaders who really value listening, it's very apparent, and these are the ones I think that I when I really notice, oh my gosh, you're really listening to what people are saying, you're taking it in, and you're not dismissing it immediately or whatever, you're not having a quick decision about it, you're really thinking about this. And it's wonderful to watch leaders who do that, because it's everything. I mean, they're sort of caring about what's going on, but willing to learn or to be surprised by something. And that, I think, is probably one of the sort of qualities that I've always looked for actually in people.
And actually the way that their behaviours set the tone for everything.
Exactly.
I mean,
well, that's part of it, isn't
totally,
it? Because,
isn't it?
you hold people.
We always tell a story of, we went to a restaurant that's no longer there, actually, called Le Caprice in London, and it was a packed restaurant, and in the middle of service, the actor Michael Douglas walked in, and the whole place stopped, and it was just watching him as he walked to his table at the back of the restaurant. We often think we started calling it the Michael Douglas effect after that, because that's the effect that leaders have. They have to realize that they are, people judge what their day is going to be like by how a leader shows up, and it builds. I know this is very much your world as well, Charlotte. The reputation, the stories we trigger through our behaviours, and I think that's some of the best ones that we've worked with are very aware of that.
Such a lovely answer. And it's coming up for me as well, that idea of co-creation. So maybe they set a vision or an end goal, but they're prepared to co-create with their teams to get there. That idea of leaders who actually listen, and who listening, not to look like they're listening, but they're listening to learn and to get better. And then having that awareness when you walk through a room, people are reading your signals. And I think you, David, call that boss watching.
Yeah, yes. Absolutely. Boss watching is I wish it was my phrase. I mean, Danny Harmer, who's the head of people at Aviva, came and I remember reading that on a blog that she was quoted in. I mean, she talked about boss watching, and it was just one of those light bulb moments where I went, that's it. We are always watching the bosses to sort of see, how's the day going to be? What's it going to be like? Yeah, boss watching is hugely important. Yeah.
It really is. And one of my recent interviewees, Liz Bradford, said, as a leader, you either cast a shadow or you cast a light. And it goes to those signals that you're in the room, you're always in the room, but are you lighting the way for people, or are you causing fear by casting a shadow? And I thought that was such a beautiful metaphor for this very idea of you're always giving signals. If you're a leader.
That's so interesting, Charlotte, because I mean, we still do an exercise sometimes when we have time with a group of people, literally about thinking, what does it mean to shine the light? And it's imagining that as a leader you have, SarahJane calls it like the Iron Man thing of Iron Man radiating the light out, and we say you have control over that. You have control over, on a dimmer switch, it could be 0 where you'd be fast asleep, or 10 where you'd look like Coco the Clown, but somewhere in around the 5 to 7 makes you look like you don't want to be anywhere else except right here, right now. And I remember years ago working on a pitch with a huge pitch, global pitch with a team. And we were talking about this shining the light and the need to sort of meet people where they are, but bring the light energy up to 7. And the lead partner really bought into this. And one of the things he used to say to the teams before they went into every site visit was, we're going to get them to a 7. Get them to 7. And they won the pitch, and there were many reasons, technical and price related. But one of the best bits of feedback was, do you know what? You guys just, every single meeting, looked like you didn't want to be anywhere else. No. You looked hungry for it. You looked like you cared about us. And that comes over as much by how you show up as what you say.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, David, you mentioned reputation, and I want to ask you each separately, and maybe I'll start with you, SarahJane, how you think about your own reputation.
Yes, I would like to think that people I mean, very much so. I think trust is probably the most important thing, that they trust that I can sit down with them and I will I will give them my full attention. I think that's one of the most important things, because, and I talk about listening because I know that I can't do my job unless I really hear what people are saying. And then that allows me to ask the right questions, particularly as a coach. I think that's so important. And I think for me, I'd like to think that whenever I'm in a situation like that, then that's a safe space for people to be able to really explore, because it's precious time that they're giving often to these meetings that they have in a coaching session, for instance. And I think that I want to make it as best as possible by allowing them the space and just giving the right questions. I think a safe pair of hands, I think, is probably the thing that I would say.
And yours, David?
Well, I think for me, it's been the gradual realization that it's something that even needs to be considered. Because, I mean, we've been incredibly lucky. We've had one or two real champions of our work who mean that we've always been very lucky to get work, but it's, you can sometimes feel that you're sort of everybody's best kept secret. And so the realization that reputation is even something that you need to consider. So I've been working a lot recently about how I talk about what we do. SarahJane sometimes says you give so much away, but I think that you know about what you do. But I think that it's being generous with your with your knowledge, putting it out there, and hopefully building a reputation of somebody who is valuable and is approachable and is just there, really. So I mean, I think for me it's become possibly post-COVID, actually, the realization that reputation is something that needs to be considered and needs to be managed, actually.
Yeah, two lovely answers. Thank you. So we now get to the questions I always ask, and I think I'm going to ask you to alternate the answers.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm going to go to David first. So you know that my mission is we need to change this old leadership archetype that we have in the back of our heads. Leadership is loud, potentially masculine, it's room owning, it's huge energy, it's noisy, it always has all the answers. And I feel like it's our neuroscience. It's not even cognitive. It just happens in the back of our head when we experience that energy. What do you think we can do both collectively and individually to change the old leadership archetype?
Wow. What can we do? Do you know there's a phrase that we've started using a lot recently, which is connection before correction. And it comes down to this. It's about realizing that everybody in the world has what I would call their story world. It's the way we all tend to sort of observe the world through our own eyes and think, this is what I want to achieve. This is what's getting in the way of it. This is what I need to do. And if you think about it, there are 8.2 billion, roughly, story worlds out there, individual story worlds. The leaders who just shout about their own story world, I think, just add to that noise. I think the biggest change will be for the leaders who can connect to other people's story worlds before they start correcting it with their own story world. So that's my feeling about it. Connection before correction.
I love that phrase. Thank you so much. SarahJane, give us a book recommendation.
Do you know, I was thinking about this, and there are so many books, and latterly, I think, in the last, 10 years, 20 years or whatever, there have been so many books written. And so I was thinking about this, and I'm going to go for How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's as old as the hills, but if when you read it, it's just full of really useful things, little tiny things that you think, oh yes, of course. And I know that it's not full of enormous amounts of, as so many books are now, huge amounts of psychological understanding and blah blah blah. But I think it's a gem.
What was that one you were saying this morning? I mean, that basically, if you want to be interesting, be interested.
Yes. I mean,
exactly. It's just simple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which probably comes back to the connection before correction thing.
So exactly, it's just so simple, and it's almost like he's got these little things that he just kind of tells you plainly.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
Yeah.
You're not the first guest to recommend it, and I start to take a message. If I'm hearing a book's name being mentioned over and over again, and I haven't read it, then that's a signal that I'm reading, that I need to go and get my hands on that book. So, David, from being such a strong supporter of We Need New Leaders, that my mission is to welcome new kinds of leaders into the workplace. For emerging leaders who have ambition to lead, what 3 tips could you give them?
3 tips. Emerging leaders. I think I'm going to go back to really, really connect first. Understand. Be interested before you try to be interesting. The second one, I think, comes back to the reputation thing. I mean, it is yours to manage. And it's important. And I think that we've existed in a world where a lot of old grey men have shouted a lot about their worth, and they've been, and we live in a world where, sadly, that still seems to get column inches of people actually sort of, the louder you shout, the more you get noticed. It's not about shouting, but it is about being aware that you need to talk about what you're doing as much as doing it. So, I mean, communicate your value is the second one. Have you got a third one?
Well, I come back to this all the time, is listening. Yeah. I mean, I just come back to that all the time. Because I think if you don't, then because listening means what you're doing is you're seeking to understand.
Yes.
And if you can't understand the people who are working for you or kind of what's going on, you don't have the whole picture. And it's essential that as a leader that you can glean the whole picture. So you have to be interested and listen and understand. And
that's absolutely true.
I think it's the same, isn't it? Really, of bringing up children. They're going through all sorts of things. If you can sense that something isn't right or whatever, you have to listen. You have to make sure that you ask the right questions that are not going to frighten them off, and just listen. Doesn't need your opinion.
Yeah.
That might, you need to go away and just thank you for telling me this. Blah, blah, blah. Go away, think about it, let it stew, let it understand it in the context. But I think that is something, is that it's that time to listen and to go away and understand is incredibly important.
Can I add in one more?
Yes.
There's one more there that
give us another one.
that struck me that is about people giving themselves permission to be viewed as a leader, because I think that so we often say that we often say to people, everyone is a leader in a different context, and I think for these new emerging leaders, one of our favorite things is to say is that leaders hold the ladder up which others climb. You have to, if we are going to have new forms of leaders, people need to give themselves permission to be seen as a leader, so that they start holding the ladder up which others will climb afterwards. And your background in South Africa, I mean, it is a prime example of that, Charlotte. I mean, how that happened within South Africa. I mean, and I think it happens not just in race, but in gender, in sexuality, of all sorts of things. Allowing yourself to just taking pride. Yes, I can be a leader, and that is a gift. My leadership can be a gift.
Oh, what a beautiful note. So the very last question, I'm going to pose this to both of you. We live in a world that's sometimes hard to manage and sometimes hard to bear on a person on an individual level. What gives you joy?
Sunshine.
Yes.
Definitely. Animals.
Oh, yes, you love.
I think, sadly, we lost our last cat at Christmas, so we're contemplating whether we can, whether it's time to get another. But I think really those simple things, seaside, the sea, looking out into wide open spaces. I think that those kinds of things are just precious times.
I mean, for me, all travel. I just adore travel and seeing new places, and that gives me joy. That fires me up, and sadly, Arsenal winning at the weekend always gives me.
It's been such a lovely interview, SarahJane and David. Thank you so much for joining me on Speech Bubbles.
Thank you, Charlotte. It's been great. Take care.